Drivers, start your engines. And you are now listening to the fastest show on iSports Radio. My name is Darrell Kinsey Jr. welcoming you to take another lap of the extra mile for today, May the 20th, 2021. Well, ladies and gentlemen, we are getting close to some crown jewel races. Not to mention in NASCAR, there's going to be a lot of COTA chaos. And to help me explain just what that means are my co-hosts, Michael Ward and Christopher Lehman. Fellas, welcome to the show.
Hello, hello.
How's it going tonight, fellas?
Doing good. Hope you guys are doing well. It's an exciting time for myself here as we are through the final stages of getting things ready for graduation. I'm finally finishing up my master's degree at the University of Maryland. I had our little college program here today, or virtually today. Tomorrow there will be the big ceremony for the entire university at Friday. That's the official one that I talk about. And T, thank you so much for joining us as well. He's listening through the chat. Make sure you get in the chat too and message us. We may read your message here live on the air. But I am so happy to be finished. And T's finishing up as well, so congratulations, Taryn, from us here at iSports Radio. A bunch of people finishing up with those degrees, get my master's and master's of journalism. Fellas, I'm just glad to be done because that was the longest 2 years of my life. And that's even before the pandemic got started.
Yep, I remember when you were graduating, you kept counting down the days until graduation with laps.
That was fun in 2018.
And then on the last lap, we said presented by Credit One Bank.
Look, it was during, since the graduation's in May, it's always during the Fox part. Actually, both of them say Credit One Bank, but it was during the Fox part where they first started doing One to Go presented by Credit One Bank, so I just played along with it, and it was hilarious.
Yep.
So let's go ahead and get into the show. We will start with NASCAR, of course, because we have to talk about Dover. And, of course, in a race like this, I have to throw it to our good buddy, Christopher Lehman. I'm going to ask him this question first. Christopher, what did you think about that race?
I don't know if you boys down south could see my big shining smile, but Sunday I was all smiles.
Pretty sure we could see it in the Maryland skies here as the skies were just starting to... Actually, the skies were light for a couple extra hours, and it was probably because of that smile. As you know, Alex Bowman. Alex Bowman. I don't know what... Where was my brain going? Anyway, Alex Bowman wins at Dover. Takes another win off Kyle Larson's plate because Kyle Larson is, I guess, allergic to closing the deal on races he dominates. This is now the fourth time that he has led both stages and failed to win. Although he wasn't that upset during the post-race press conference, and we're going to get to that next point here, is because Hendrick Motorsports didn't just win the race, didn't finish 1-2, didn't just finish 1-2-3, but 1, 2, 3, 4 at Dover, the Dryden 400, top 4 positions taken over by Hendrick Motorsports Chevys. Michael, kind of reminded me of Total Team Control, NASCAR Thunder 06 Total Team Control, the way that played out.
Yeah, all drivers. It was almost like Rick Hendrick swapped to Alex Bowman, got him the first, and swapped back to Kyle Larson, got him the second, swapped to the next Hendrick guard got him the third, and swapped to the fourth one, got him the fourth. It's crazy how they finished 1, 2, 3, 4 right there. I feel like they made a statement saying that they were back from the last couple of years of them not really still being contenders, but not really all that winning. I think they were making a statement saying, "Oh yeah, all four of our cars can win."
And all four of them have won. We're still waiting for all four to win this year, but Chase Elliott's win is coming. Could come this week at COTA. We'll talk about that later. But Christopher, for years, Hendrick has struggled, and Chevy in general has struggled with the Camaro in the Gen 6 era and getting it to operate at an efficient level. I think not just how they've run this year, because Chevy has been much better in 2021. I think Sunday was a huge shot to the NASCAR world, not just from Hendrick Motorsports, but from Chevrolet, to say, we haven't gone anywhere yet.
Yeah, I would definitely have to agree with that statement. It definitely felt like a notice to the garage that says, hey, Chevy, we're back. Hendrick Motorsports, even though we won the championship, we're back. All four cars are back, I think, is more what the statement was. Obviously, Chase Elliott has been a force to be reckoned with since he picked up that first win at Watkins Glen 3 years ago. He's been on a tear ever since, but I think this season has been the Hendrick Motorsports. I've got four cars that can win. I got four cars that can consistently get top 10s. Willie B, for instance, grabbing his 11th in a row. I think at least this first quarter and a little more, I think we're actually closing. I think we finished halfway, right? I think
we're pretty much we're closing in on the half. Well, no, halfway's in July, but we're getting closer.
Yeah. It was just a statement that says 2021 is Hendrick's year. I've got four cars that can win, I think, is the big thing there. And something that we could probably segue into a little bit later is the narrative this year has been, what if more than 16 drivers win? It's something that we've talked about, the national media talks about, but something that, I recently responded to a tweet that kind of got me critically thinking. So when we get into the playoffs, right now, there's at most like 6 points difference between Martin Truex and the next guy with playoff points. Those big points cushions this year are gone, and it'll be interesting to see how favorites could be all, one or two bad races in a round knocks them out. I think that's going to be a storyline that we haven't talked about yet that's worth talking about soon.
I think we're going to see more than 16. We've talked about 16 winners a lot. I think we're going to see more than 16. I don't know about you, Michael, but with not just all the road courses that are coming up, and we know how much of wild cards those are, we still have to go to, we go to Road America, of course. We still have to go to Nashville Super Speedway. Nobody's been there before. We have no idea how that race is going. We have no idea how that track is going to run. We still have to go to the Indianapolis Motor Speedway road course. There's a lot to shake up. We're going back to Atlanta in July, where hot Atlanta is going to be hot. And I don't mean about the action on the track. That air temp is going to be abysmal. Trust me. The South ain't nowhere to be during the summertime. I think we're going to have 16. And Michael McDowell, who's currently sitting 16th in points, if I'm him, I'm not safe. I don't feel safe right now. And Michael, I don't know if you feel the same way, but I don't think that Daytona 500 win is going to get him in the way it's going. There's still too many guys that are capable of winning that haven't won yet. And I don't see those guys going winless through the first 26 races. Oop, did we lose Michael?
Hello? Hello?
Oh, there you go. We got you now.
Okay, I accidentally hit the mute button on Skype. But yeah, there's too many drivers to just not be able to make it in. You have Kevin Harvick, you have most of the Haas guys, you have a good amount of the Gibbs guys. Well, I think only one Gibbs guy. I think
just Hamlin now.
Yeah, just Hamlin. And then further on, you have, it's just too many just to say, oh, yeah, McDowell's in. No, there's a lot of good, fast cars that can knock him out of the playoffs.
Yeah, because right now, the drivers that are not in on wins right now, Denny Hamlin, regular season champ, he'll get in no matter what. Chase Elliott, currently sitting 7th, he's due for a win and we're going to a road course. Kevin Harvick seems to have finally woke up, doesn't have a win yet, he's in 8th. Austin Dillon is 11th. We know RCR has been much better the last couple of years. That goes ditto for Tyler Reddick, who's in 15th. Now, I'm going to throw an interesting one to both y'all. Chris Buescher, sitting there in 14th. Roush Fenway Racing has gotten a lot better the last couple of weeks. I wouldn't be surprised if somehow they lucked into a win or something, the way it's going.
I wouldn't be surprised to see Brad Keselowski driving one of the cars next year.
Yeah, we did hear that story, and Roush Fenway did not confirm or deny it, that there is a ownership stake in there as well if Brad Keselowski were to go to Roush. And Brad, we know he's got his own 3D printing company going on. We know he's business-minded right now. I could see him possibly taking that deal if a Penske one falls through.
And not
That's
to
another
mention,
person that can make it in Penske.
I've heard that Keselowski and Logano were not even speaking.
That might be something we have to talk about on the breaks. I would definitely want to get into that. There's been a lot going on with Logano the last couple of weeks. And Keselowski, for that matter. But we will definitely get into that in the second segment of the show. But, guys, this playoff format, or this winner you're in playoff format, it's made to create drama. We could see some drama coming up here because there could be some guys that, especially if someone like, let's say, Daniel Suarez, Bubba Wallace, Ricky Stenhouse Jr., Kurt Busch end up lucking into a win somehow, then everything is on its head at that point.
Yeah. With all these road courses, I think there's a lot of, especially the new road courses, there's a lot of room for bonehead driving errors, taking out someone like a Chase Elliott or Martin Truex. And those two, I would say, are the premier road course racers. And you take one or both of them out, and that window just flew wide open for anybody. And with Road America, COTA, I think there's a good chance that one of them gets taken out by one of their competitors blowing a turn.
Yep. It could possibly happen. And, oh, by the way, 50% chance of rain on Sunday for COTA. So if you think things are difficult now, wait till the wet stuff gets onto the track that they've never been to before. But we'll talk about that near when it gets around to our picks. But folks, I just want to talk to you about something real quick. The world of semi-pro sports is unlike any other sports organization. Players play in hopes of so many different outcomes, whether it's to get filmed to try out for professional teams, big-time colleges, or just playing to stay in shape. No matter what, all semi-pro players have one thing in common: playing for the love of the game. The SoCal Warriors have been on a quest to earn titles and give players second chances since 2017. Whether you're in Southern California or anywhere in the world, make sure you give semi-pro sports a chance if you love your sport. You may get that second chance you have been waiting for as an athlete. Make sure you follow them at SoCal Warriors on Twitter, at Southern California _Warriors on Instagram, and Southern California Warriors on Facebook. Thank you so much to the Southern California Warriors for sponsoring IE Sports Radio. So we'll be right back. We're going to come back on the other side of this break. We have a host of topics to get to in terms of NASCAR, including a little bit of talk about the production on the TV side and how that may be affecting sponsor return on investment. We'll be right back here on the Extra Mile on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports.
What's good, fight fans? It's your boy, Marcus Los Great, here to give you what you want, here to give you what you need. Yeah, man. Yeah. I'm coming to you live, straight from your mama's basement with a crispy, awesome white tea. We are coming to you live every Tuesday at 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Powered by IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports.
Hey sports fans, do you like wine? Well, we've got the show for you. This is Let's Wine About Sports, a show where we talk about wine and sports simultaneously. From the classic Cabernet Sauvignon all the way down to the grapes that you've never even heard of before. Oh yeah, we cover it all. And we'll talk about a little bit of sports as well. Football, hockey, collegiate, women's sports, it doesn't matter. We're going to talk about it all, and we're going to whine about it all. So join me Monday at 8 p.m. on IU Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports.
And we're back here on the Extra Mile on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports. Back with my good friends Michael and Christopher as we continue on with this show. And during the week, Christopher pointed out a tweet from a user by the name of Blake McCandless at Mr. F4 Speed on Twitter. And it had something to do with sponsorship issues in NASCAR. It had an interesting take. I'm going to read that tweet language verbatim and then give my thoughts on it. If you're wondering why there's potential sponsorship issues in NASCAR, just consider that one fan today has gotten more airtime than at least 25 cars in the field. Now, if you remember this during the race, you know, it's the first time we've had a mass of fans that weren't socially distanced back in the grandstands, and people showed up at Dover, and there was a one Chase Elliott fan that, oh boy, that guy had a lot to drink, like a lot to drink before he even got into the gates that day, the way he was acting. And they spent some time under yellow just, talking about this guy and showing him. Meanwhile, the cars are going around. And, okay, that's all well and good. But if you've noticed on the broadcast, you don't see a lot of the racing back outside, I would say, the top 10. I think you guys would agree with me on that. If it's not in the top 10, usually you don't see it. And most of the time, the camera's either on the leader making laps or we're in commercial, which is unfortunate nowadays. There's a lot of action throughout the field that is just missed, that I think colors the perception of what's actually going on the racetracks. If you take a look by juxtaposition, the Formula One broadcast on Sunday, it doesn't matter if there's a pass for 3rd or 13th. If there's an overtaking move going on, they're showing it. They have cameras on all 20 cars, and they're showing the shots. They're getting everybody as they're going through the race. If there's an on-track battle, doesn't matter what position, they're showing it. For NASCAR, if it's outside that top 5 or top 10 or top 16, unless they're a highlighted driver like Kyle Busch and his engine issues, they might as well not exist. Now, we know sponsors spend a lot of money to put their logos on these race cars because they want that sweet, sweet TV exposure. And if they're not getting that exposure, a lot of people are not going to sign up for the rates that teams want them to pay. Now, we've seen that NASCAR is doing conversations about whether or not to move the numbers to allow for larger logos on the door. That's not going to matter if they don't get with their TV partners and say, you guys have got to show more of the racing on track and show more of the cars that are actually on track battling. And maybe that has to come through, maybe not the sanctioning body, but through the RTA. Because right now, a lot of sponsors aren't getting shown on TV. And while getting your eyes in front of the person at the track is nice, as the pandemic just showed, TV is king. If you're not getting the TV eyes on your sponsor, nobody knows your sponsor was there.
Yeah, I would have to agree with you there 100%. It's funny because a lot of those races, a lot of those battles, they weren't like, they were less than a second. They were in perfect battling range, and just they were not showing the racing, and it's just frustrating because there are drivers that I'm sure you like, that I like, that Chris likes, and they're not getting any exposure because they're not inside the top 10, and it's just we don't get to see a lot of those behind the front stories like on air because we're so focused on the front of the pack. Now it's funny because you have to find out about smaller teams from maybe like Wikipedia or news articles, but you don't really see the smaller teams, what's going on with them on TV, and I just think that's a very big missed opportunity as far as the TV networking point of view.
Yeah, just continuing on with this whole discussion, there is a lot of missed opportunity for these back marker teams. Just Sunday, I don't recall seeing Michael McDowell. I don't recall seeing Daniel Suarez. I don't recall seeing Cole Custer, Eric Almirola. Even some guys in your premier teams like SHR. You barely saw those cars. You saw Kevin Harvick when he was up there contending for the win at the end. But and like SHR, those sponsors are paying big money to be on those cars. And I think that there's a realistic way where they could get every car at least 30 seconds of time on that screen, and it would not be detrimental to the race. And it would lead to better sponsorship coming into the sport. These backmarker teams can go back and say, hey, look, we're guaranteed 30 seconds of TV time a race. And, that doesn't sound like a lot, but that might be the difference for a couple races for a sponsor, or getting a last minute sponsor or something like that. It's just a real bummer that drunk Chase Elliott fan and that guy in the pedigree Kyle Busch fire suit got more screen time than most of the field Sunday.
You know what hurts a lot of this? We don't have qualifying right now. And during single car qualifying, that was guaranteed that sponsor would at least get 2 laps where that car is on track. And even then, sometimes you didn't get that, like at Daytona but that, Daytona qualifying, no one really wants to sit there and watch the cars just go for 2 laps. So some cars get skipped. That's unfortunate, but it's Daytona. It's super speedway qualifying. It's not exactly the most exciting thing in the world.
Though Daytona 500, though, I think there's so much excitement when the Daytona 500 comes around. I'd watch a moped go around the track if it was broadcast on TV.
You are not wrong.
I would watch a moped do 30 miles an hour on that TV, and I would be glued to it, absolutely fascinated.
You're talking to a guy who once unironically watched lawnmower races, so you are preaching to the choir on that one.
Hey, I come from an area where lawnmower racing is actually pretty big, so
you know exactly what I'm talking about.
Precisely.
Shoot, we might have to when we have a break, like when this Olympic break comes up in a couple of weeks, we might just have to have a weird motorsports segment, because
that sounds pretty fun, actually.
All right, someone write that down so I can remember it, because I'm not going to remember it with my fishbowl memory, but we're going to have to talk about that later. But back to the topic. Yeah.
Taryn in the comments, write it down.
Yeah, T, if you're still here, write that down. But while we're still here and back on topic, practice and qualifying, which used to be, basically free exposure for sponsors and stuff, because, they need something to put on TV. They basically show as many of the cars that are on television or that are, on the track, because you got to show something while practice and qualifying are going on. We don't have that right now due to pandemic, although other series were able to do practice and qualifying, so the NASCAR thing just looks silly, or actually more accurately, a lot of the teams were much more dire straits monetarily than we believed, and you missed that big part of exposure because it was free real estate to get the sponsor out there. Now, of course, when the race is going to be different, but practice and qualifying, you at least knew you were probably going to get on TV somehow. You don't have that right now. When we get back to practice and qualifying next season, I hope they're able to show as many cars and talk about as many stories as possible, because that's the only way these drivers and these small teams are going to get noticed. Now, perfect example. They showed Bubba Wallace like 18 times on Sunday, and I love Bubba. Like, I think we know that. But if a couple of those times could go to other drivers, and Bubba had a great day. They went from 22nd to 11th, so it was a good day for them. But if they could take like at least 2 or 3 of those and, talk about Josh Berry being in the race and show him. Well, they did show Josh Berry a couple of times, but talk about Josh Berry being in the race, or talk about, Front Row Motorsports and Anthony Alfredo. I forget Anthony Alfredo is in the Cup Series, how little we see him on TV.
Yeah, the only time that I remember he's there is that I think it was this week that he wrecked.
Yeah, this week.
He got in a wreck, and I was like, who the hell is that? Oh, that's right. He's in the Cup Series. Yeah, I know who he is. But, I mean, that just furthers the point that you were making, is that why do we show, and not pointing out Bubba, but if you show Bubba 18 times, why not show him 16 and give 2 spots to another? rather than watching the leader pace the field for 60, 70 laps without a break, why not give even 5 laps to showing another team, or a couple different teams? Give one team, especially at a track like Dover, where you're ripping a lap every 30-ish seconds. I can't remember what the times are, but give each car one lap, especially at a track where it's quick, like a Bristol, and you got 500 laps. It's not going to hurt me to give 5 minutes of coverage to backmarker teams, because they're doing a lap every 18 seconds. So
show more of like I'm sorry, Chris, but show more of like the battles that are happening like in the back or in the midfield. Like show drivers that are fast but aren't having a good day. Like show like Cole Custer like fighting Matt DiBenedetto on the track or something like that, or show like somebody way off in like 33rd trying to make a pass for like 34th. Like,
I don't remember if it was this week or I don't remember if it was this week or a couple weeks ago, but I remember they were just showing lead laps, or the leader out there leading laps, and it was Clint, I believe, or Jeff had said like, oh, we got a really interesting battle going on for like, I don't know, 17th, 16th, 17th, somewhere in there. And they didn't cut to it. And like Dale Jr., like I've listened to his podcast, and he says that he'll do something like that, say something to that effect, to get production to say, hey, let's look at that and see if it's worth putting on TV. And so I would have to assume that that's like one of the tricks of the trade, is you point out something like that in hopes that they put it on TV, and they never did. They just kept going with that lead lap or that leading car. And like I said, I don't remember if it was this week, last week, but there was a battle going on way in the back. The announcers pointed it out. Never saw it on camera. And it's just like, what the heck?
Yeah, they do that a lot. Like they've done that like years. Like you'll hear somebody say, oh man, this is a great battle going here for 22nd, 23rd, and 24th, and they just won't cut to it.
It's this Chase Elliott fan drunk in the stands and make jokes about how he's going to be sleeping on the couch.
Yep.
Yeah,
and we can roll this into the next part of our next part of our conversation, which is going to be, of course, the Gluck poll, and we've got an IndyCar topic that we'll get to near the end, but we're just going to roll into these before we go to our break at 8:45. So we were talking before the show about the Jeff Gluck poll. Was this a good race? And by now we know that poll skews on a couple of metrics. One of those is, and as I said on Tuesday, this is a conversation I just don't want to have anymore, the horsepower package debate between 750 and 550. I don't care. I really don't. It's been done to death. We got to get some of the downforce off the cars. We know that. The new car is going to have downforce in a completely different way. All the drivers have said it's going to be harder to drive. I can't wait till we can never have this conversation again. It's going to be 670 and 550 next year for the horsepower. 750, 550 this year. So why am I bringing it up today? Well, we were talking about this. Dover was a 750 horsepower race with the low spoiler. So the cars were a lot harder to drive. And I thought it was a good race. It wasn't a barn burner, which most races are not going to be. That's why they're called barn burners. Not every race is going to be that exciting. It was a pretty good race. You had some good movement up between the field. There was some passing through for the lead on track. Some of the passes were under caution, but you did have a couple under green. I'm going to talk about that later. And there were still some people that were unhappy about it. And even Gluck mentioned that the poll may skew because it was a 750 race. And I kind of want to get your guys' thought on it first about, the poll in general and people's attitudes towards the racing, which is skewed based down to which horsepower package we're working on. And I just want to get your guys' thought on this whole deal.
Yeah, so when I first saw the poll, I voted yes for very obvious reasons. My driver won. I'm going to vote yes. Everybody whose drivers win is going to vote yes. And then fast forward, a day later, and I see Gluck say like, oh, based on the comments that I see on the poll, it's obvious that the 750 crew skewed the poll. And I was like, what? So I go look, and sure enough, if you read through those comments, it's like the race sucked, but it was 750 horsepower. So of course I'm voting yes. And it was just filled with those same comments about how 750 horse, small blade. It's a yes for me. So there are definitely factors outside of the race itself that will influence the fan perspective and their voting tendencies. And I mean, it can even come down to what drivers wins. I think Kyle Busch overall has a lower, was this a good race than Chase Elliott does. It's just, there are factors that are not the actual racing itself that play into that poll.
And given that, it can really vary through the driver, because if Chase Elliott wins, it's going to be at 80%, no matter what. If Kyle Busch wins, it might be lower. With these polls, and we know NASCAR pays attention to stuff like this, even though they might not say it officially, we know they're watching. How do you take the validity of these type of polls? And this doesn't even have to go to racing. This can go to, obviously, the political opinion polls. How much stock should you really put into these things when you know folks are going to just be easily swayed by the minorest of things when they're voting for these things?
I would say that they probably have a certain margin of error that they allow, whether that's plus or minus like 5%, something like that. I mean, there's typically, the way that I see at least, is the people who are going to be vocal about their voting intentions are going to be the ones who are trying to influence other people to make a vote for that reason. So the most vocal, I would call it the vocal minority. So the people that want that 750 and are just voting for it for the sake of voting for it, they're going to be the only ones in the comments saying, we're only voting for it because it's 750. Whereas the silent majority are voting yes or no based on the racing. So I think NASCAR definitely understands that. I understand that. So I think the poll is valid, but there is a margin of error that NASCAR probably factors in.
I think for all these things, you have to factor that in. Michael, what do you think about the polls?
I don't really care. I mean, I just want good racing, man. You can take 800 horsepower and make a damn good race. You can take 150 horsepower and make a damn good race. I don't think it matters. I just want to see some good racing. I mean,
U cars at Hagerstown Speedway may have been 200 horsepower and sometimes put on the best race of the night. I really don't, and I agree with you, Michael. I don't care about the horsepower. I just care about, can the cars get close and can the cars pass? They come out and say they're going to use 300 horsepower. Great! As long as the racing is good, I'm not going to care. Some people get well, the engine should be 1,000 horsepower. You got 1,000 horsepower money? Do you know how much the engines are going to get destroyed like that? And there's a perfect segue to this, to a series that I've been watching. I'm going to go get to see for the first time in person, which is Unlimited Hydroplane. There's a huge debate about bringing the piston engines back. Here's the problem because those engines were loud and that's when the sport was good, and these turbines just drawing people away. Let me tell you something. The only reason you like the piston engines that much because you were 7 when you saw them, and they were the best thing in the world because you were 7. 2, those piston engines were built off of surplus World War II airplane engines. Now, World War II ended in 1945. It's 2021. Not many of those engines still exist. 3, the RPMs that you're trying to put through those engines to compete on the unlimited circuit destroy piston-powered machines. I mean, even GP boats, which are Grand Prix hydroplanes, struggle with engine reliability on a weekend basis. The U3, Griggs Ace hardware that runs the piston engines, can sometimes go through a couple of engines in a weekend. The turbine goes through 2 engines in a season. There's an expense to that 1,000 horsepower / piston engine in H1 / whatever that people don't account for because they think the teams are just going to pull it out of their behinds. Some of this stuff is not economically feasible. And if you don't think about it that way, you're never going to get it. And I don't know how to explain it to people.
In my opinion, all this talk about piston engines and everything like that, though, all of this is going to go away. I mean, we're moving on to, electric engines, getting the most out of electric engines. And it's just like, times are changing.
Electric and hydrogen are up next.
Yeah, and really the thing about it is, it's like things are changing. You can either accept the change or you can just move on. But this sport, all of these sports are gonna move away from this, and you just gotta accept it because they're not gonna listen. They're like global issues, and if we get rid of piston engines, it'll make our planet a lot better. You already have countries saying we are going gasless in the next 20, 30, maybe 40 years.
California, 2035. All electric.
GM is supposed to be going all electric around that time as well.
All right. This is the future. All right. It's happened. I hate, as you know, as a car fanatic, I hate in the future, I'm not going to hear a rotary engine. I hate in the future, I'm not going to hear a 2JZ engine. Yep. But, guys, we got to make things better for our planet. Things are going to change, and if you don't like the changes, get out.
That's really the only thing that we can say about it, I think, and that's a good place to put it. It's frustrating about what's going on around here, but I don't know. I take these polls with a grain of salt. I will usually vote yes just because it's a race, and I'd rather watch a boring race on Sunday than any other sport, to be honest. Like, I'll take 3 races at Texas over any other sport just because I like motorsports, but I'm not going to enjoy those 3 races at Texas, but it is what it is. But people have interesting perspectives. That's about all I can say about that. So we're going to take another break. We're going to come back. We're going to get into our previews of this weekend's action, which includes Indy 500 qualifying, and Ray Hall Letterman Racing did a dumb thing. We'll talk about that on the other side of this break here on the Extra Mile on iSports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports.
What's going on, football fans? This is me, your boy Larry B, inviting you to join myself, Colin Reynolds, Mike Pat, and John Felipe for one of the most electrifying football shows you have ever heard. 3 and Out, right here at iSports Radio. Recap of the week before, a preview of what's to come, and of course, 3 hardcore head-to-head prime-time face-offs each week. You don't want to miss it.
are back here on iSports Radio, your feed for all that is sports. It's time to get into the action you're about to see this weekend. But first, and of course we're going to start with Indy 500 qualifying, but first we've got to talk about something that happened today. So Rahal Letterman Lanigan Racing, say that 5 times fast, was attempting to set up a photo op similar to what Penske did on Wednesday. The problem is they forgot to tell anybody they were going to do it. So they're just out there. Their 3 cars are going to try to make the Indy 500. Rolling at charitably pace car speed. There's a problem with that, however. The racetrack was open for practice. So Scott McLaughlin and James Hinchcliffe were coming around the corner with a full head of steam. McLaughlin slams on the binders, gets into Hinchcliffe. The yellow flag comes out on practice. Everybody is ticked. IndyCar is furious. And it ends up with all 3 Rahal Letterman Lanigan Racing cars getting 30-minute practice holds tomorrow. So I'm going to first throw it to Michael and Chris. Did you guys see this today? And if you did, what were your thoughts on it?
I'm going to be 100% honest with you. I didn't know that you could have like photo ops on the racetrack, and if you let everyone know you can do it, that's news to me. But yeah, they probably should have let everybody know on the track that they were going to do that, because that could have been a huge incident, and we don't want any huge incidents happening on track. So very bad call on Rahal Lanigan Letterman or Letterman Lanigan Racing.
Yeah, that was. I did not see it. However, I saw something similar today. I watched Ford versus Ferrari for the first time. And obviously,
Very good movie.
Amazing movie.
Obviously, they wanted to line up the 3 Fords at the end of the race. So while it wasn't necessarily IndyCar, I did see something similar, just with less disastrous results. Well, less controversial anyway. But I don't think 30 minutes is enough. I think that was just so reckless of them to do. And from what you said, it caused 2 other drivers to wreck.
Thankfully, they didn't wreck. They almost did. They made contact.
Okay.
But
okay, so there wasn't really damage.
Was a wreck, yeah.
Either way, that's just so boneheaded and reckless that, there should be some very severe consequences, because that's the type of thing that gets someone killed.
Yeah, and Indy, even today, even with all the safety advances, is not a track you mess with. I don't want to say it's outgrown the cars. It's 2.5 miles, and it's a lot wider than, say, Monaco, which we're going to talk about in a minute. But, man, you can't play games like that. Like, you have to tell people if you're going to do something like that. We've seen it too many times in racing. A way slower car get absolutely destroyed by a much faster car in a rear-end incident. Things typically don't end well for that. The Gainesville Red Dragon team ceased to exist as an entity because of an accident like that during the inaugural year of the WeatherTech Sports Car Championship, when they united both of them, because during the Rolex 24, their car was going slow through the International Horseshoe, and a Ferrari did not see them because of where the sun was, absolutely destroyed the Gainesville Red Dragon Daytona prototype. It ended the car, it ended the team because of so much damage and the money would have cost to replace it. And also the driver, I forget who was driving the car at the time, also got injured. That's the most important part. You can't play around with that because we've seen it too many times. Someone can get seriously hurt or worse. And I really think they need to be missing more than 30 minutes of practice time. But this is one of the most exciting, qualifying formats of the year. Crown Royal Armed Forces qualifying at the Indy 500. This is how it's going to work. On Saturday, we're going to run all 35 cars, through qualifying. Top 9 will be locked into the Fast 9 shootout on Sunday. Positions 10 through 30, they are set. They will not requalify on Sunday. Anyone 30th and below, so that is 30th through 35th, on Sunday at 1 o'clock, last chance qualifier. 3 cars are in, 2 cars will go home. There are no provisionals in Indy 500 qualifying. We have seen past champions go home. Penske, 1 year, missed the 500 entirely. Fernando Alonso didn't make this race. James Hinchcliffe didn't make this race, which led to Lena Gade getting fired unfairly. And I will not forgive Arrow, Schmidt, Peterson, McLaren, whatever they want to call themselves. I am still holding a grudge about that to this day. It is going to be an exciting time for qualifying. This is going to be fun, guys.
It's going to be a great time. And like you said, Daryl, I still haven't forgiven him for Lena Gate. Well, never will.
And Christopher, I don't think we've caught you up on the Lena Gade situation, but we will have to fill you in on that because it still makes me mad to this day. And especially if we ever get Caitlin or Lita back on here, they also were not fans of that at all. But the 2 racetracks where we're going to see races this weekend, both of them Formula One adjacent, but they couldn't be 2 more different racetracks because we have Monaco, which has truly outgrown not just modern Formula One, but I dare say modern motorsport. It is Armco barriers on each side, tight city streets. There is nowhere really to make a passing opportunity at this facility. So Saturday qualifying is going to be extremely important. And then you go to NASCAR at Circuit of the Americas, a fast-flowing 20-turn circuit. And then you throw in a little bit of rain. Folks, it's going to be a chaotic racing weekend. I honestly cannot wait to get these races started. It's going to be a lot of fun.
Oh, yeah, these races are going to be amazing. I cannot wait.
Monaco is probably my favorite circuit. Maybe if there was one race that I could go to in my life, I think it would be Monaco. Unfortunately, like you were saying, motorsports has truly outgrown the city, which is a shame.
Yes.
I actually did see a pretty cool thing where someone was like, without really losing the integrity of what the layout is right now, try to find us more passing zones. It was actually really cool seeing what people did on Twitter to try to extend back a little bit to include some good areas where there'd be some passing. It wasn't like an F1 sanctioned tweet or anything, so nothing will come with it, but it was interesting.
I think I know who made that tweet because I follow that particular YouTuber. He's actually really good. Name is escaping me right now, but I think I know who tweeted it, and yeah, they do good stuff. I like that person a lot.
Yeah. And but anyways, yeah, I'm really excited for Monaco. I absolutely love it. It's just such a one of those things that I don't have enough money to enjoy it the way that I think it's supposed to be enjoyed. But it'd be fun if I had the money to do it, like super rich.
For me, it would have, out of these 3 races, I would say Indy has to. There's so much historical value in Indy. Like it's just not a race I can just ignore. Of course, everybody knows that my heart will always belong to the 24 Hours of Le Mans.
Which is coming in August. Can't wait.
Yep.
So, fellas, it's now about that time where we get to make our picks in Nearest the Win. I don't remember if we got an update this week from Matt. I'm going into our little... I'm going into our chat now. But while I look up that, why don't you guys tell everyone where they can find you on the internet?
You can find me on Twitter at Michael_Ward25 or Michael Ward_25.
And you can find me at Fiji Sims. And let me know week. Don't be afraid to pick your driver for Nearest the Win. The only reason I picked Arsenal is because I didn't feel like an Alex Bowman homer. I know I got the points anyways because he finished second, but I could have had another point if I had just went with my gut.
Sometimes you got to go with your gut on these polls. And, of course, we're picking for Monaco and, of course, we're picking for COTA. In COTA, I got to go Chase Elliott. He's the best road course racer in Cup right now. It's between him and Martin Truex Jr. I don't see Chase missing on a second opportunity. The rain, however, is going to make this a lot harder to pick. But I'm taking Chase Elliott to take the win at COTA. And I believe I'm on Lewis Hamilton here for the picks in Monaco. It's going to take Lewis to extend the championship and win yet another Monaco GP. Who you guys got?
So with COTA, I am going to go with Chase Elliott for the very obvious reasons. And for Monaco, it's going to shoot me in the foot going with you're going with your favorite driver on this one. But I'm going to pick Red Bull to return to winning Monaco after Ricciardo did it like 2 or 3 years ago. And I'm going to go with Verstappen.
I really wish we did Nearest to Win on like qualifying, because if you watched Monaco practice today, you'll know that Ferrari went 1-2 on merit. So now I'm just like, wait a second, what is this?
Oh, so you going for your boy?
I might.
I'm not sure what to take out of that.
I'm scared.
I don't know what to take out of that with Monaco because qualifying is going to be different.
I know, but it's just like Ferrari 1-2 and everybody was on super softs. Wait a second.
Yeah, but we know Verstappen and Hamilton had issues on their fast laps, so
I know.
I know the feeling. It's like, is this real? Or
don't
is this...
give me hope.
Just do it.
Yeah, we'll just do it. Screw it. Leclerc okay. From Monaco. And COTA, Christopher Bell surprised me, so I'm going to pick Christopher Bell on a road course. It might be a bad choice. Probably will be. But you know what? Life's a gamble.
I tell you what, though. Christopher Bell, he ran behind Chase Elliott for the better part of stage 2. And I think that he actually probably picked up a lot from, getting feedback from his team about Chase's data, his SMT, and seeing what he's doing, seeing his lines. I think Christopher Bell is going to be a better road course racer for that stage that he spent tailing and pulling away from the rest of the field with Chase Elliott.
Yes.
And
I think you learn a lot when you follow guys like that. They're at the best in whatever race. If you follow them, you will pick something up. So I think Christopher Bell is going to be a much better road course racer just for following Chase Elliott and beating Chase Elliott at the Daytona road course. So going to be fun races. And folks, this is the checkered flag for this episode. Just want to remind you, of course, make sure you are locked into our social media pages at IE Sports Radio on Twitter, at IE Sports Radio on Instagram, IE Sports Radio on Facebook, and IESportsRadio.com for our fabulous website. Also, I'm a DK Jr. 12 on Twitter. If you like listening to me ramble on about motorsports, make sure you check out me on Tuesday, 2Y Tuesday, 6 p.m. on WBGR Sports on Facebook. And if you missed any episode of any live broadcast of our IE Sports Radio podcast, they can be heard wherever podcasts are posted. Well, that's it for this episode. For Michael and Christopher, I'm Daryl. This has been The Extra Mile, and we will see you at the next green flag. Good night, everybody.